Assalamualaikum. Tes. Assalamualaikum. Those who are online, can you hear me?
Can.
Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Thank you very much. Okay, let me see. How do I go about presenting my thing? Where is it? Share screen. Share screen, right? The option is just share the screen. Then this is the one. Share. Yep. Can you guys see the slide?
Can.
All right. Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much for coming to the lecture. The last lecture for today. Today is day what? Day 3 of your intensive course. As the last lecture, I don't want you to be more stressed on more info and facts, right? So to begin with, this is not something new. Metabolic response to injury or even surgery or even insult to anything in our body, this is not something new that you have to study, okay? This is something that you have been going through since your undergraduate years, so I don't think there's any need to go really in depth into what is the exact mechanism of how it is done in our body, because basically when there is any insult, our body is always going to go through trying to get into that homeostasis back. So those are the responses that we want. But interestingly, if you look at the picture, the first slide, we are not like zebras. Zebras is wonderful in such a way that when they get chased by the lion or even whatever, okay, the stress response is very short. Very short. After about 3 minutes being chased, no more insult and everything back to normal. But not with human, unfortunately. Okay? They go back to normal. Just eating grass and like nothing happened, you know? Not go into the cave or like be shiver, no, nothing. It's just back to normal, eating grass and like nothing happened. But not human. Human cannot do that. So you can imagine if human can do that, a wonderful world. Huh? Very wonderful world that we have. Okay? So human is different, right? This is something common scenario that we've gone through since your career as a doctor. This is injury, obviously, to a patient, massive injury to a patient, massive insult to a patient. So that's where we try to discuss a little bit about the backgrounds of the problem. Okay. Now, body will react to an insult. Mainly, the insult will come from pain, hypovolemia, as well as circulating component. Not component, it's component. Sorry for the typo. Component, circulating component. Okay, circulating component means your hormones, your cytokines, right? But the major insult is that pain and hypovolemia, especially in surgery. Those are the two insults that is common for us. Okay, but it is the natural responses. Natural responses as being a human. Try to go back to homeostasis, that's all. It's just whether it is a controlled one or it is not a so controlled one that leads to a chronic problem or even not settled problem in surgery, right? Can we admit that? Okay. I cannot share. Okay. So as you know, how our body react to any injury, the first one will always be the neuro, right? Neuronal mechanism. Then come your hormonal. In between that, you have your immune response, okay, which is characterized by all the cytokines and whatnot, right? T helper cell, innate and adaptive immunity. All we know, okay? So when you have pain or even fear, anxiety, elation by serotonin, interleukin-1, 6, TNF factors. So all those are a major insult or a major stimulus towards a reaction in this hypothalamus pituitary adrenal cortex axis. Okay, so whenever there is pain, for example, you incite pain in any patient with surgery or patient come to you with trauma, these are the axes that you need to know. Okay, first of all, always the hypothalamus come to you with CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone. Then it will incite the anterior or posterior? Anterior pituitary, releasing the adrenocorticotropic hormone, which in turn akan keluarkan the cortisol, which is coming from the zona fasciculata of the adrenal gland. Okay, so as well as there is also excitation of the aldosterone at the beginning part of the mechanism, right? So what is function of corticosterol? Mainly corticosterol. Fight, flight mechanism. That's the basic. Okay, whenever the cortisol is involved, is to prepare the patient, the person, either flight mechanism. Okay, you want to stay or you want to run. Okay, but the other flip side of it, not only that whether you have to stay or to run, our patient is not going to run anywhere. It's just that if you've been chased by lion, yes, you're going to run, but our patient is not running anyway, right? So the body, in that sense, will basically try to put all the energy resources towards saving the patient life, to keep the patient alive. That's the mechanism. How? By making sure cortisol is going into the body and start to incite all the glucose to be mobilized. So make sure all the massive glucose is inside, be it from glycogen, be it from protein resources, be it from the fat sources, right? So those are the mechanisms. The idea is try to keep the patient alive. Okay, try to keep the patient alive. So those are the cortisol, or we call it as stress hormone, a simple term. Okay, so that's what happened. Body will try to, upon the first insult, upon you cutting the patient with your scalpel, that is the insult to the patient, that is the stress upon the patient that you gave. Cortisol will surely be up. Okay, so then, of course, if the patient comes to you with hypovolemia, these are the mechanism, still the same thing. Right? Neural mechanism, endocrine mechanism, it's the same thing. When you operate the patient, sometimes you lost a lot of blood, or sometimes patient come to you with trauma, they lost a lot of blood. This is the mechanism. All these neuronal, hormonal, cytokines, or immune response, they occur almost together. It's just different time and different moment. But all of them react together. They don't like feel, oh, this is the department of neuronal mechanism, this is the department of hormonal. No. The body doesn't act like that. It acts synergistically. So that when we have department of surgery, department of medicine, department of pediatric, the body act like that. Okay, specialty of respiratory, but the body doesn't work that way. Why we divide them into such things? Because we need to study them one by one so that we can understand. Okay, but then the body act mechanism is as a whole. Okay. They never separate, right? So endocrine system, basically endocrine system dia akan naikkan, dia akan try to conserve the sodium. Bila sodium conserve, di circulatory tubule, water akan start ikut, aldosterone, RAA, angiotensin mechanism akan put in, then the volume will be up. That's the mechanism. Neuronal, your baroreceptor, chemoreceptor, all will synergistically put into norepinephrine, epinephrine, to increase the cardiac output, peripheral vasoconstriction, All of that initially will try to put or conserve the patient to keep the patient alive. The same mechanism. Whatever it is, you try to save the patient first. Okay, if you look at that, the healing part, the wound healing part is later. Survive first, healing later. That's the mechanism. No point you try to heal but the patient doesn't survive. Okay? Okay? Right, this is the famous ebb phase, flow phase, and recovery phase. There are 3 phases. Okay? So, when we have ebb phase, or they call it as a shock phase, 0 to 24 hours at the first insult. This is what happened. There will be reduced cardiac output, reduced consumption of oxygen, reduced blood pressure, tissue perfusion, reduced blood temperature, reduced metabolic rate akan reduce. Why? The body is in shock and try to conserve the energy for the coming event, which is the flow phase. Okay? Flow phase, what happened? Neuronal and hormonal mechanism akan active. So there will be a lot of cortisol, a lot of norepinephrine, epinephrine together with aldosterone, RAA, angiotensin mechanism pun akan at peak. Okay, at peak. So this is what we call as catabolic phase of the metabolic response. Okay, there will be increased catecholamines, glucocorticoid, mobilize all the glucose and whatnot, glucagon, cytokines, and lipid mediators. Okay, flow phase. Later on will become recovery phase. How many days? Depends. Flow phase, sometimes they start at day 2 or day 3, sampai day 7 or day 8. Recovery can begin as early as day 3, day 4 until few weeks it takes. Okay. As what we said, flight mechanism, genetically programmed response to body insult. Okay. Rapid mobilization of the glucose. So you will be having glycogenolysis, gluconeogenesis, proteolysis, and lipolysis. All right. The major energy for patient in insult or in injury is basically fat. So kita akan pakai lagi banyak fat. Right? Fat, triglyceride consists of 3 fatty acid plus 1 glycerol. Okay, glycerol terus masuk dalam mitochondria, energy. 3 fatty acid masuk dalam this carnitine pathway, carnitine shuttle, dia akan masuk ke dalam tu and pakai ATP untuk keluarkan lagi banyak ATP. Okay, those are the mechanism. More and more energy. Okay. Okay, so hormonal and immune response become maladaptive sometimes. No attempt to conserve energy, rather all-out attempt to generate energy at the expense of lean body mass. So that is the problem if we don't anticipate this kind of problem early. Okay, so those are a little bit of summary of what really happened during the shock phase as well as the catabolic phase. So those are the things, circulating component that is being circulating in the body and try to conserve the body as much as possible to the hemostasis parts. Okay. Right. In a normal state like this, like now, we are sitting in a room, this is our metabolism. At a normal rate, we are going to use more carbohydrate, less fat and protein. Less fat and protein. Okay? Right? And we are going to protect our protein as much as possible. Okay? Lean body mass is not being compromised at all. Right? During starvation mode, we are going to use more fat and protein start to compromise, but not as much. Not as much. But then, when we give a lot of insult, patient in trauma, patient in major surgery, okay, so everything is going to change. All the neuronal and hormonal mechanism plus cytokine will actually change a lot. Okay, the glycogen store will only last 24 hours to day 3. The most is 72 hours, the glycogen store, and that's it. That's it. But the proteolysis and lipolysis is already starting during the 24 hours. So meaning to say, if you don't anticipate that and give the nutrition early, there will be not enough energy for the patient. And you know very well energy is very important. Number one, to keep the patient alive. Number two, the energy for us to actually keep the wound healing and immune system up. Because you know very well, cortisol is going to actually suppress the immune system. You must remember that. At the expense of keeping the patient alive, cortisol will suppress basically the immune system. So that is why it's very important for us to keep in mind on that mechanism, because protein is like everything. In the body, it's like everything. Even your DNA is protein. You look at the double helix form, it's protein. All the A, C, G, T, those are protein. All the helix form is all protein, right? All the helix structure is being glued by what? It's being glued by what? It's being glued by what? It's being glued by polysaccharide, which is coming from your glucose, which is coming from your carbohydrate. Thank you. Okay? And all binds together, make it the double helix. In complete form, is bind all together with minerals, all the vitamins and whatnot. So very important nutrition. So if you can imagine, right from the DNA itself is coming from the nutrition, food, basically protein. If this happen to patient, then you can imagine what can happen, what more can happen to the patient, right? Okay. So you will have net protein loss, basically. Net protein loss. The alanine from the protein is going to the liver. Glutamine is also being used, right?
First energy within 2 hours. But before that, before we start everything started to.
It's already started. Started. Why? Because cortisol. Cortisol will start to mobilize and start to incite the gluconeogenesis, which is the proteolysis as well as the lipolysis. Yes. Protein is fat is a major energy use, but protein is a very good source, precursor for glucose during injury. Okay, so they will use up almost all. So if you're not careful, your patient might go undergo a successful surgery but end up with a lot of complication. Right? Okay. So with regard to protein, if you look at the protein function, there's a lot. It's like almost everything in your patient, right? If you look at the muscle itself, not skeletal muscle, you look at the intercostal muscle. If they don't have muscle, how can they breathe? We're talking about resuscitation. It's A, B, C. What is A and B? A is the airway. B is the breathing mechanics. Coming from where? The muscle. The muscle. So if you don't have enough muscle, how can the patient breathe? So the mechanics is not right. Where did the oxygen coming from? Okay. So in catabolic state, in the flow phase, urinary nitrogen loss will be about 30 gram per day. That's a lot. So the patient will lose without doing anything, not moving anywhere, 1.5% of body mass per day. If it's in ICU, it's even worse, about 1 kg per day loss, lean body mass. All right. So they will use up all these branch chains of amino acid, valine, leucine, isoleucine, utilized by the muscle. Glutamine used by gut and kidney, releasing alanine, precursor for gluconeogenesis. That's what we said before. Okay, so the insult can come always from cortisol, hypoxia, and insulin resistant. Okay, now if you look at insulin resistant, who are the patient with insulin resistant? Diabetic patient, correct. So if you look at the NRS scoring from the ISPEN guideline 2002, okay, diabetic is already score number 1. So diabetic patient to begin with memang dah ada risk of malnutrition. Because of this, insulin resistant can incite this protein loss. Okay. A lot. Insulin resistance can always increase the blood pressure. Right? Because insulin resistance can conserve sodium. Bila conserve sodium, conserve water. Conserve water, increase volume. If it goes chronically by that means, increase the blood pressure. That's the mechanism. Right? So you can see from this graph, net nitrogen excretion gram per day. You can imagine that if the patient stay very long in ICU, how much is the loss if you don't do anything, right? If you don't instill good nutrition, you can imagine how much is the loss, right? Resting metabolic rate, you can see from day 0 to day 10, it spiked around day 10, day 12 like that, and start to go down by day 20. So 0 to 10 days is the most crucial day if you really want to make sure that the patient is having a very good nutrition. Basically, even before that, so that patient have enough reserve in case there is any insult or further complication, right? This is what we've been talking about just now. The up phase, flow phase, and recovery phase. Okay, catabolism and anabolism phase. So as what we said just now, shock, decreased temperature, decreased oxygen consumption, lactic acidosis, which is very important. Lactate is the precursor for no. Okay, where? Anaerobe. Okay, anaerobe. When in the presence of no oxygen, anaerobe. When there is lactate, okay, the lactate can always go into the acetyl CoA and go into the Krebs cycle and be used as precursor for another energy production, right? So increase cortisol, as what we said, hyperglycemia, gluconeogenesis. So dia dah start awal dah, sebelum tu lagi. So immune activation initially, right? Catabolic phase is the opposite, exact opposite of the initial phase, the shock phase, right? There will be immunosuppression, negative nitrogen balance, hepatic acute phase responses. Anabolic phase, this is the thing that we want to expedite. We want to expedite the anabolic phase. Kita nak catabolic phase supaya kita cepatkan dia habis dan anabolic phase come into the patient as soon as possible. Okay? So there will be, it may extend up to weeks after surgery. Corticosteroid withdrawal phase. This is where, if you look at day 3, day 4, patients start to actually conserve more water, and sometimes you start to see the patient getting blood pressure higher and higher and higher. So you have to be careful kalau patient ni memang hypertensive. Right? Sometimes initially kan BP drop, try to conserve, okay, we give more fluid, and suddenly day 3 patient. Okay. Right? Reduce nitrogen excretion, restoration of protein and fat at the storage. So this is where kita nak supaya our target is basically we help the proteolysis and lipolysis try to get back the patient as normal as possible early. Right? In case you forget, I don't think you forget this one, right? Where the hormone is coming from. This is again under picture of the HPA axis. And of course, stress, that is the mechanism of stress. So any insult to any kind of patient, be it stress for exam, you can always incite this in yourself. Okay, so make sure it is well controlled, right? Well controlled, not to stress too much. Okay, we are not zebra. Okay, we're not zebra, unfortunately. Okay, right. So basically, the end result of this is what we want. So ERAS protocol come into picture, try to modulate all this. It try to modulate all this from the beginning. You look at the pre-op, intra-op, what we do, post-op, what we do. So everything is try to modulate and try to bring back the patient to normal as fast as possible. Okay, so we try to modulate. look at the mechanism of how we try to reduce the stress. That's the first thing. We consult the patient. We make sure the mind is ready for operation. We give everything. So we prime the mind ready for operation. We give something for the patient to relax. All right. Okay. So not so much stress. Tak banyak early removal catheter, early oral nutrition. So make the patient happy in that sense. Okay. Right. Early mobilization, stimulate the gut very early. So that is post-op. So pre-op is no prolonged fasting, no bowel prep, antibiotic prophylaxis, thrombolysis, no pre-med. Okay. Intra-op, short-acting anesthetic agent, no drains, avoid salt and water overload, maintenance of nomothermia. So all those things are basically the insult that we try to minimize. So in a hope that we will try to bring the patient to the anabolic phase as soon as the surgery over. So we expect the patient to actually get into normal maybe by day 3, day 4. Those are our expectation. If the insult is still there, for example, the patient come to you with intra-abdominal abscess collection, right? We think wash out, but then patient is still not doing very well. So we start ask ourselves, where else is the insult? Especially by day 3, day 4. Okay, we want the patient to go back. But then there are many factors, all the stress. But whenever there is a stress source in that patient, still the cortisol will be there, the immune system will be suppressed, so everything is not going into the proteolysis and lipolysis will keep on continuing, and the patient will stuck in that flow phase. Right? So we want to get the patient into the recovery phase as soon as possible. So we try to modulate. Okay? Of course, nutrition, my favorite topic. So we try to get who are at risk of malnutrition, educate resuscitation, make sure, because kalau kita tak educate resuscitation, we know very well patient is not going to get any benefit from our nutrition. Okay? As I always say, kalau MAP, mean arterial pressure, is not up to 80, no nutrition will be absorbed. Everything else will be shunted towards to keep the patient alive only. You bagi TPN ke ataupun you bagi enteral sama, dia tak akan ambil untuk healing purposes, untuk immune system. Dia cuma akan try to keep the patient alive. Okay, so that is why you nak bagi nutrition, make sure patient good resuscitation first. Okay, so that is why good resuscitation, find the primary cause, treat the primary cause, then only your nutrition will come into a good state with the patient. Otherwise, everything else will be going into the keeping the patient alive mechanism. Okay, the patient will not be into the anabolic phase. That is why you see the patient chronically in the ICU. Those are the problem. Patient is stuck there and not moving anywhere. Okay, there's a lot of example here, isn't it? There's a lot of insult. You can imagine now, there's a lot of insult to the patient. Right? So, to recap, at phase, flow phase, and recovery phase, those are the 3 phases that we know from the theory part. Neurohormonal responses plus immune responses, those are the responses in any insult. Right? Important to recognize the expected body reaction so that we will act promptly. Because our job is supposed to be to anticipate the problems. We don't want the patient come into where patient had complication which we don't want. Okay, surgeon is always like that. We like to be in the know. We don't like surprises. Correct? Okay, so treat the primary cause, right? And good resuscitation. Protein energy malnutrition is a recognized problem. ERAS is to modulate the metabolic response to injury. Early nutritional intervention is a must in any patient. Right? Okay, that's about it for today's sharing. We have 20 minutes plus for any question. Okay, very basic to understand. Very basic, sangat basic. Any question? It's a very good MCQ question.
So ini before the hyperglycemia glucose It's all in the flow phase, right?
Mainly in the flow phase. Tapi dia dah start awal. Dia start early. Okay. Banyak. There's a lot of mechanism. Basically, kita try to categorize them. But they never be like, okay, from 0 second until 24 hours, this is the mechanism. No. There will always be overlapping. Right? But our job is to anticipate problem. You know very well, patient come to you with polytrauma. You are not going to wait. You know very well the injury the insult is great. So you need to minimize the insult. That's where come into damage control surgery. You try to minimize whatever you want to do, treat the issues, resuscitate the patient back, and bring back the patient. There's a lot of insult, but then that's the ongoing process. Okay?
How do you start feeding a patient who's at risk of refeeding syndrome, but also just had a major surgery? So they've got two things going on.
Good question. Depend very much on what kind of patient. Number one, if the patient come to you as emergency, we treat as emergency. We deal with nutrition after the surgery. One. If the patient come to you as elective, you can always, as what ISPEN guideline is recommended, you try to get the patient into the ward about 10 days earlier. So you give around 7 to 10 days of nutrition, then you operate the patient. Okay, that's by ISPEN guideline. Just follow the guideline. That's all. Simple. Be it with enteral, be it with TPN, no problem, no issue. If the patient can go enteral, we always favor the gut. If we cannot, by any means, the gut is failing, it's not going to absorb, there's an obstruction there. So you go through TPN. Simple. Okay. From emergency point of view, we try to start the nutrition as soon as day 3. Kalau day 3 tak ada apa lagi bagi dekat patient, you have to start. Because remember just now, glycogen store sampai 72 hours je. Nak tak nak kena start. Kalau tak ada by oral, then you start by TPN.
From what I understand, the pre-op the ERAS can have to carboloading.
Carbolode, correct. Yes.
The reason is because to avoid protein punya lysis.
Yes. We try to minimize. We try to minimize the proteolysis, the effect proteolysis. That's why a well-fed patient pre-op is much better. So some people give carbo load. Some people believe in giving dextrose, 5% dextrose. But if you look at 5% dextrose, that's very minimum amount of glucose that you give. Might as well give carbo loading. You load twice. And you see by study, they've shown much less pre-op, post-op complication. Especially even the patient is diabetic. Okay, even the patient is diabetic. But of course, you have to calculate the requirement of the anti-diabetic drug, insulin.
But usually yang kita nampak usually bariatric surgery yang kita buat itu.
Yep.
Operationally,
Yes. Here we don't use. Here, by right, any surgery, any elective surgery, we should do carbo loading. That is the spirit of IRAS. It's in the IRAS. But whether you trust in it or not, that's all. And you have to talk to your anesthetic colleague as well. Are you okay to give 2 hours of fluid before your intubation? It should not be a problem because the guideline is not coming from us. Trust me, it's coming from ICU. The guideline of carbo loading, you can check. Then colorectal, start to use it. Okay, it's there in the guideline, whether they read the guideline or not. Itu saja. It's in their guideline. But as a courtesy, you always talk to your colleague. If they are okay, because if you can start, you give like 6 o'clock. Operation is like, patient is not going to be on table by 8. I mean, here standard, right? So you can just give by 6 o'clock. After 2 hours, the fluid is no more there. It's just glucose. It's not a problem. It should not be a problem. Okay? Any more question?
Assalamualaikum Dr. Nizam. Amira here.
Yeah.
I want to ask, during your just now the presentation regarding ERAS, it recommended that pre-operatively no pre-med given. Can I get further explanation about that?
Oh, pre-med. Pre-med is by NS.
Yes.
I know. There's a problem. Everywhere is still giving. I know. That's why you ask. I know.
I'm just asking your opinion.
So we basically IRAS memang dia tak bagi. Kalau you follow strictly IRAS in the ni IRAS memang kita tak bagi the pre-med. Okay. Yeah, the IRAS, there's another lecture if you really want to go into that. Okay. But yeah, some memang tak trust in IRAS, some they trust in IRAS. Especially those yang trust in IRAS, especially those yang buat laparoscopic surgery. They can really see the effect. Some of them really trust in the open surgery. So to them, bila buat open surgery, there's not much different. Open surgery and laparoscopic surgery, there's a lot still ongoing thing happen in between two clans, right? But any medication in IRAS, they try to limit any medication as much as possible pre-operatively, as much as possible. We don't want to meddle so much in the patient own body punya mechanism pre-operatively, so that it goes naturally into the process, because the next day there will be an insult. So kita tak nak intervene sangat. So no prep, no nothing.
Even the normal medication that's supposed to consume by the patient, such as antibiotics.
Normal medication, no problem. Okay. This is the pre-med that have been given by the NS. Okay, not much. Okay, the own patient own medication, no problem. Okay, hypertension medication, the heart medication, no problem. Pre-med is by the NS. Kan pre-med yang biasa buat pre-med is NS, like their medication, not our medication. Okay.
Another question: if let's say patient post-op, usually like a major op, we will start from it, because as you mentioned, we only start a proper feeding nutrition for patient once it get out of the catabolic phase and then delivery.
Nutrition, we start nutrition as early as possible.
As early also lah.
Nutrition, the spirit of IRAS is to start the nutrition as early as possible. So kita tak nak prolong starvation. Even pre-op, kita tak nak patient overnight fasting pun. That's why kita start carbo load apa semua ni. So post-op, as soon as possible, patient start feeding early. Okay. You believe in start feeding early? Well, it depends very much on what kind of surgery that we're dealing with.
If let's say it involved in GI tract surgery.
Yeah, GI tract surgery. That's why GI tract surgery. Because logically kan, sometimes the normal practice is we always ask the patient whether you already pass motion ke, pass flatus ke before start feeding, right? Normally, you and me going to lunch, do we ask have you fart or not? No, right? We go and buy and then we eat, right? We never ask that question to ourselves, right? No, right? No. But we ask our patient, right? I don't know what's the mechanism for that. Really. I practiced that too before. I don't know why. Following someone. But I know a few consultants that believe in this spirit of the IRAS, they start early. Simple question they ask, are you hungry? Yes, hungry. You want to eat? Start. Very simple. Some of them is still stuck in the vicious cycle of anastomotic leak, quote unquote. Right? Some surgeon or some consultant, they believe in if you want to leak, it will leak whatever you do. It's not because you start the feeding. Okay, the idea of starting the feeding is when you start, for example, you start nourishing fluid to the patient, you will start the peristalsis. Number one. Okay, you start the bowel to mobilize very early. Okay, you don't want the enterocytes to go like cuckoo after a while because there's no fluid going through. That is a very bad one. Why? Because you will insert bacterial translocation from the bowel into the bloodstream. If the mucosa is dead or being ulcers because you don't start the patient early, that's why we don't want. All this bacterial translocation can easily be happen kalau you keep the patient MBM for so long. So that's why I get irritated kalau patient tu tak. There's no indication to MBM the patient, you MBM the patient and then after a while, patient is having sepsis, you go from head to toe, you don't know where. It's inside the gut. It's inside the gut because we don't start early. If there's no contraindication, start early. No problem. No problem.
Do you believe in escalation?
Escalation?
Solid, fluids, soft diet, solid.
Oh, not really. Not really. Start from what? Clear fluid, nourishing fluid, soft diet, normal diet. If you go into the literature, there's no scientific basis of that. If someone can bring me papers of that practice, I'm not sure from where the practice is coming from, but it's not something standard that you have to follow. If you think the gut is ready, ready. Most of the time, when the patient feel hungry and want to eat, they are ready to eat basically. If you perasan, kalau patient tu tak ready, something is not right with them, there's still insult inside them, they are not ready. They will tell you, tak selera lah. The gut is not ready. The gut is not ready. Something is not right. So you must find them. What is it? Okay. But of course, in our cancer patient, memang tak ada selera. Why tak ada selera? Because there's a lot of the cancer patient is basically systemically inflamed at all times. So there's a lot of interleukin 1, 6, TNF factors that reduce the appetite. We cannot help. So once the cancer is being removed, so you need to encourage. Hopefully it's reversed. That. Okay. Early mobilization, of course, definitely. So there's spirit of IRAS. You understand this metabolic response to surgery, and then you can easily understand why IRAS is being instilled. IRAS is another topic. All right, it's another lecture. It's good to discuss IRAS. Memang tak banyak orang practice solely as IRAS. But we should do it. Any more question?
Starvation considered as one of the body inside.
Yes. Yes. If you think the patient, if you think the gut is not going to be used more than 5 days, this is not that. When we speak, it's not like right day 5 yet. But if you think that the gut is not going to be used more than 5 days, start what? TPN. Don't wait. You wait, keep on waiting. Day 4, day 5, oh start lah now. But then the glycogen store is already like dead for past 2 days. Okay? So when you understand this, it's easy to start nutrition. You have a strong ground to start nutrition. If you cannot buy enteral, start TPN. Start slow, no problem. If you think the patient is going to get into refeeding syndrome, start slow. Okay? And sometimes refeeding syndrome will always happen, even how slow you start. Even we start 15 kilocal also, at the 50% calorie requirement, is still refeeding syndrome. But it's okay. It's okay. Continue the feeding, keep on correcting. Give timing for 3 days. That's what we do. Follow the NICE guideline. Okay. Any more questions? Risk assessment.
So I've heard about SGA because
SGA.
and NRS. So is that a preference?
It's really up to you. If you comfortable with SGA, go ahead. If you comfortable with NRS, go ahead, no problem. So ISPEN guideline can use both, no issue. But if you look at SGA, it's more of functional assessment, I would say. NRS is more objective in the sense that you can just tick, 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 and get the answer. Sometimes you combine both. Right? Any more question from the floor? Senyap kah? Dah habis question? Question. Very basic lah guys, this one very basic. You just have to know the basic. At phase, slow phase, recovery phase. You need to know what kind of major hormone is there as what we discussed. Okay. This is very straightforward. If you get this into, there's a discussion in detail, there's a lot more. There's a lot more to it. You can always summarize that in patient with polytrauma. You can always go into patient with sepsis, post-major surgery, short bowel syndrome, that we get into the flow phase like so long. Okay? But we try not the patient to be in that state. Otherwise, it's going to cost a lot. Patient will stay.
Pre-op, we use the patient in almost starvation mode because we keep patient on very low calorie diet. Then post-op still continue very low calorie diet. So meaning you are inducing the bottom of the resistant lipolysis.
Correct.
Correct. At the stage of the flow.
Bariatric surgery, it is not so much of the pre-op. It's post-op. It's not so much for the surgeon, it's for the anesthetist. Because the metabolic changes post-op is so much different. If you look at the study, the rate of metabolic changes, there's a lot. Because even without the patient getting into so much of weight loss, they already have metabolic changes, right? The study has shown. All the insulin resistance is reducing. So that changes cause a lot of metabolic issues. Okay? Sometimes the patient can get into shock. It's because of that. So that's why post-surgery, sometimes the patient is in ICU. Especially kalau dia buat bypass kind of surgery. Not the sleeve. Sleeve, okay lah. Bypass, there's a lot of problem post-op. There's a lot of changes happening post-op. Agree with you. But then, that's how we do it. We still want the 10% weight loss before. But still, sometimes patient rebound. Especially the sweet one. The sweet eater. Dia tak boleh makan banyak kan, tapi dia ambil sweet tu banyak. Selamat. Tak boleh buat apa lah. Okay, any more question? If there is no question from the floor, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully it benefit you all. It is a very good MCQ question. I would have stressed it so many times, huh? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
I don't know what kind of question will come out. I'm just saying, you know. Okay. Oh, Masya Allah. So do we increase the glucose?